Going to do a reading from Seed to Civilization, The Story of Man's Food by Charles B. Heiser Jr., published in 1973. This is from Chapter 7 on the starchy staples. And this reading is on manioc. Manioc, cassava, and yucca are some of the common names of Manihot esculenta, which is little known to most people in the temperate zones, except in the form of tapioca. Although it is one of the extremely important food plants of the tropics of both hemispheres. Although it is New World in origin, details about where and when it was first domesticated remain vague. Related wild species occur in both South and Middle America. Prehistoric remains are known from coastal Peru, but it is generally agreed that the plant was introduced there, perhaps from Venezuela or Brazil. The plant may have been independently domesticated in Middle America as well as in South America, but an introduction from South America to Middle America seems more likely. Manioc belongs to the Euphorbiaceae, or spurge family. That, among many other plants, includes the Pata rubber tree, our best source of natural rubber, and the poinsettia, a well-known Christmas ornamental. The manioc plant is rather tall, at times reaching 15 feet with divided leaves. The edible part is the tuberous root, which somewhat resembles a sweet potato, but is usually much larger. Some grow to be a yard long and to weigh several pounds. Numerous rather ill-defined varieties exist that are generally divided into two groups, the sweet maniocs and the bitter. The latter contain higher concentrations of poisonous cyanogenetic glucosides than the former and require special preparation through grating, pressure, and heat to make them safe to eat. One wonders, of course, how man originally discovered that this plant, as well as several others that are toxic until specially prepared, could be made edible. Manioc was taken to Africa from Brazil by the Portuguese in the 16th century, but it did not spread widely there until the 20th century, when its cultivation was encouraged. It was found that manioc was not damaged by locusts, a serious pest of crops in many parts of Africa, and that the bitter varieties could be grown in areas where wild animals would destroy other crops. The plant also grows better on poor soil than any other major food plant. As a result, Africa today produces as much as or more than the rest of the world combined, which in one sense is unfortunate since the roots contain little protein and their wide use has contributed to malnutrition. The plant reached the eastern tropics somewhat later than Africa and presently is most important in Indonesia, where it ranks as the third most important crop after rice and maize. Some there is grown for export, although most of it is used locally for food, as is true in most other areas where the plant is grown. World production is estimated at more than 80 million tons. Manioc is a lowland tropical crop, although sometimes it is grown at elevations as high as 6,000 feet. It will grow in somewhat arid regions as well as in regions with fairly high rainfall. Stem cuttings are used for propagation and are simply stuck in the ground at an angle in fields prepared by slashing and burning. The plants are then more or less left to themselves. Some varieties mature their roots in as little as 6 or 7 months, and in others, roots may continue to increase in size for up to 4 years. The roots are harvested as needed at the farmer's convenience. The plants are extremely productive. The peeled roots of the sweet types may be prepared for eating simply by boiling or roasting. Both sweet and bitter varieties may be used to yield a coarse meal known as farinha de mandioca in Brazil. The meal is often prepared by placing cut roots into a long sleeve-like basket known as a tipiti in Brazil, which is then tied to a tree. Next, pressure is exerted on the other end. The tipiti works something like the Chinese finger locks, with the pressure extracting the juice, which is also collected and often used to prepare sauces or beers. Among some Indians in lowland tropical South America, the beer is prepared by old women sitting around a large gourd vessel who chew the roots and spit them into the gourd. The chewing initiates a breakdown of the starch into sugar, and wild yeasts then take over the production of alcohol. Visitors to a tribe are often expected to take a ritual drink of the beer, and to refuse to do so would be considered an insult. At one time, manioc was in demand in the United States in the form of tapioca. Once a popular pudding, tapioca has been largely replaced by gelatins and instant puddings. The fact that some people referred to tapioca pudding as quote-unquote fish eyes, a fairly apt description, probably did not figure in its decline. Tapioca, as purchased for making desserts, is prepared by gentle heating, the partial cooking causing the agglutination of the manioc starch into small pellets. In addition to use as food, manioc starch is used in the manufacture of adhesives and cosmetics, for sizing textiles, and in making paper. As many of its former uses have now been taken over by starch from waxy maize, little manioc now enters into international trade. In some places, particularly in Africa, the leaves are used as a pot herb. Since the leaves may contain up to 30% protein, their wider use might help prevent malnutrition among manioc root eaters. One of the aims in present manioc improvement programs, which unfortunately are being conducted only on a very small scale, has been an attempt to increase protein content. Although most varieties have 1% or even less protein in their roots, a few have been reported to have nearly 3%. Although the high protein types also produce small, somewhat woody roots. Hybrids have been made in hope of transferring the character of higher protein content to more productive varieties. Attempts are also underway to produce types low in cyanogenetic glucosides, and some success has already been achieved in breeding for resistance to a virus that has caused considerable loss in Africa.